Differentiate both forms of y equal 1 minus cosine x divided by sine x equals cosecant x minus cotangent x. So it says to differentiate this equation y in two ways, right? 1 minus cosine x divided by sine x equals cosecant x minus cotangent, right? So the first form, right, that we have is just using it by itself. Y equals 1 minus cosine x divided by sine x. And so if we take the derivative of y, which is y prime, equals, and using the quotient rule, where f of x equals 1 minus cosine x, f prime of x is equal to negative 1 times negative sine x, which is sine x, and g of x equals sine x, and g prime of x equals cosine x. Go ahead and plug it into the quotient rule, which is as follows: f prime of x times g of x minus g prime of x f of x divided by g of x squared. So go ahead and plug that in. It's going to be sine x, right, times g of x, right, which is sine x, right, minus g prime, right, which is cosine x, times one minus cosine x all divided by g of x squared. So g of x squared. So then that equals y prime equals sine squared x minus cosine x times, using distributive property, 1 minus cosine x in the outside parentheses divided by sine squared x, right? And so that's going to equal y prime equals sine squared x minus cosine x times negative cosine x times negative cosine x, which is going to be positive cosine x squared, right? All divided by sine squared. And that's going to equal, right? If we rearrange this, right? If we put sine squared and cosine squared next to each other, it's going to be what? It's going to be that trig identity, right? All I'm doing is regrouping right here. So what I'm doing is this right here is going to equal, in this trig identity, sine squared x plus cosine squared x is going to equal 1, right? So make sure that y prime equals 1 minus cosine x over sine squared. So now notice how this matches the original. I'm checking the orange with the orange. Now differentiate the second form, right? If we have y equals 1 minus cosine x, right, divided by sine x, right, equals cosecant x minus cotangent of x, right? The second form could be just dividing each of them by sine x. So y equals 1 divided by sine x. I'm just dividing each term in the numerator, right, by the denominator. So minus cosine x divided by sine x. and that'll be y equals cosecant x minus cotangent x, right? And then finding the derivative of this will be y prime, which equals the derivative of cosecant x is going to be negative cosecant x cotangent x plus cosecant squared x. And how did I get that? Well, just finding the derivative cosecant x is negative cosecant x cotangent x, and just finding the derivative of cotangent x is going to be cosecant squared x. So then you get back so then you can go ahead and show that the two derivatives are equal, because it is equal to this part right here. So notice how these are first form of derivative, and this is the second form of the derivative.